If you've ever watched Batman the Animated Series, you know how important these are. Rather than opening with a standard title over the action like its contemporaries and even its successors, every episode of Batman opens with an individual title card, bursting with personality and atmosphere. Similar to The Simpsons couch gag, one of the great joys of any Batman episode is the unique artwork that begins the story. Sometimes the title cards were better than the actual episode. Bane introduces the man who broke the bat as a bit of a wet noodle, but the title card oozes power and mystery. Other times, title cards told a story of their own. The two-part origin story of Clayface uses the masks of comedy and tragedy to establish Matt Hagen's identity as an actor, transformation as a motif for the character, and the underlying tragic tone. The eventual follow-up episode discards the comic mask entirely, with the now beaten and worn mask of tragedy casting Clayface's shadow. In just these two images, we see the trajectory of Clayface's story, and his growing disintegration. These titles are largely the work of producer Eric Radomski, whose initial drawings helped establish the art direction of the series. We can see his style throughout these titles, in both the minimalist imagery and the emphasis on darkness. But apart from just looking awesome, why are these images so important to Batman the Animated Series? What about these episodes warranted specific title cards unique to them? Well, I think it's important to understand the show's cinematic roots. Much as many of the producers and writing staff were geeks who drew from the comics, they also took a lot of cues from movies. Whether that be film noir, Alfred Hitchcock, Orson Welles, or German Expressionism. You can find all of these influences throughout the series, and the title cards are one such example, echoing both the inner titles of the silent era and the stylish extravagance of classic Hollywood. The showrunners even thought of their episodes as mini-movies rather than episodes of a TV show. The notion of serialized television hadn't really taken hold in the early 90s when Batman was on, and certainly not for children's cartoons. With some exceptions like X-Men, animated shows were primarily episodic, and usually followed a pretty strict formula. In the realm of superhero shows, the Super Friends offers a really good example. Most episodes start with the Legion of Doom meeting to discuss how to destroy the Justice League. One villain offers a plan, the characters execute that plan, and the heroes ultimately overcome to defeat the Legion. Certainly, Batman the Animated Series had its own formulas, and most episodes could be boiled down to bad guy wants a thing and Batman stops them. But there was much more variety in the details. Sometimes we got origin stories more interested in the villains. Sometimes examinations of Bruce Wayne himself, where the villain was little more than a plot device. And sometimes your more simplistic traditional stories of Batman and his allies fighting against evil. But even with a reliance on formulas, every episode of Batman strived to explore new aspects of the characters. Not that they were always successful, but at their best, episodes of Batman could stand alone, offering complete and meaningful stories, while nonetheless falling within the larger canon of the series. The title cards were a way to signal that individuality, that an episode wasn't just a fragment of a whole, but a full story in its own right. And it's worth noting that the episodic nature of the series led to wildly different tones. This was a show that could delve into the darkest and most introspective aspects of the character, and also tell goofy stories where Batman and Robin thwart the Joker's plan to ruin Christmas. A show that transformed one of Batman's dopiest villains into a tragic figure, defined by mourning and pain. But a show that could also have a laugh at someone turning to villainy because one time they were late for an appointment. A show that often had an intense urgency as matters of life and death hung in the balance, but also one that just enjoyed hanging out with its villains sometimes. This series embraced the plurality of what Batman could be more fully than any version outside the comics.
Sooner or later I'll go down. It might be the Joker, or Two-Face, or just some punk who gets lucky. My decision, no regrets.
Welcome to Riddlerville, Batman.
And that makes the title cards essential, as they prime you for what type of Batman story you're going to get. The dark and minimalist imagery for episodes like Dreams in Darkness and I Am the Night allude to their introspective stories, while the laid-back imagery and breezy score for Almost Got 'Em speak to the more casual hangout vibe of the anthology. You might be surprised, in fact, by just how much information these seemingly simple title cards can pack in. Take an episode like Joker's Favor, an at once very goofy episode where the Joker enlists an average Joe to hold a door open for Harley Quinn, yet also a deeply upsetting story about how the Joker torments a powerless person just because he can. We get so much of this story just in the title card. The perspective of an average nobody is established, the music creates a goofy tone, and the Joker's shadow reveals both the underlying layer of darkness and the power Joker holds over this guy. Not every title card is this dense with information, but all of them help establish aspects of the episode. And then there are some title cards whose full significance don't even become apparent until a rewatch. The first time you see Eternal Youth, this just seems like some vaguely sinister tree imagery to tease Poison Ivy as the villain. It's only after you watch the episode and you know Ivy's turning people into trees that you realize that this is a fucking human hand.
This can't be.
Clearly, a lot went into these title cards, and that overriding effort is perhaps what I love most about them. Making a show like Batman the Animated Series is a huge undertaking, with a lot of moving parts and factors to consider. Adding a specific title card for every episode isn't just another layer of work to pile on, it's one that really isn't necessary. They didn't need to do this, but they made them anyway, because of how much these title cards added to the show. I can't think of any better microcosm for these storytellers and their drive to go above and beyond what was expected from a superhero cartoon made for children. And because I can't think of any better way to end this video, here are my top 10 title cards from Batman the Animated Series. Number 10, Baby Doll. Number 9, Day of the Samurai. Number 8, Appointment in Crime Alley. Number 7, Beware the Grey Ghost. Number 6, Paging the Crime Doctor. Number 5, The Last Laugh. Number 4, House and Garden. Number 3, Robin's Reckoning. Number 2, Dreams in Darkness. And number 1, A Bullet for Bullock.